God, tender, loving care. Welcome everyone to today's program. I am God TLC, and this is a good one. How can we figure out today's topic? Well, I do have a few hints for you all. If you are joining, you will find out why learning programming builds power, purpose, and wealth. And I would like to break down each one of those key terms with you right now. So I hope that you are all strapped in and ready to go because we are learning programming and how does it build power, purpose, and wealth. So drop in the chat what is power, what is purpose, what is wealth. Drop that in the comments if you are streaming this after it has been live. Hmm, I tend to think of power as being in your own energy, in your own element. And I view power as a way of creating professional development as well as spiritual development. So power is development. Purpose? Purpose for me reflects goals. What is it that you are setting out to do? And I mean, it's such a perfect word in Spanish. We say metas, right? And in English, metaverse, right? So that is no coincidence. No coincidence at all. So our last one is wealth. What is wealth to you, everyone? Because we all define wealth differently. Some of us define wealth as money, dinero, lana, chavos, pesos. Some of us define wealth as experience, accessibility, advocacy, autonomy, right? I mean, what looks like wealth to me might look different to you. That's why on this podcast, Tech That Builds Wealth, we're always asking that golden question of what is wealth? And how does this thing called technology help us acquire this other thing called wealth? Well, wealth can be being in your own power, having the time to pick up and drop off your kids at school, having time to self care. Wealth can be having enough resources in your own home, in the bank, in the vault, having your basic necessities met. Those are all forms of wealth. We've heard that adage of health is wealth. What does that mean, right? So when we explore the concept of wealth, we all define it differently, but we're all here in the same place. And that's why I'm very, very, very excited, everyone, for this. So I couldn't contain my excitement in. I needed to start right away. And I've been thinking and ruminating on this all day today. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe for more God tender loving care. We are going to take a deep dive into the key terms power, wealth, purpose, and synonyms alike. Now, when I first came across these terms, I thought, well, they're all very interrelated, they're all very connected. Our focus is foundational programming concepts, plus why they matter spiritually, practically, and financially. Now, I said that in a very specific order, right? The title of this stream, of this podcast today is Power, Purpose, Wealth. And I'll do my best to get it right in that order because it's very intentional. And sometimes I may switch it up and say wealth, purpose, power. But for the purpose of this first segment, it's very important that you type and write these notes down verbatim. Power, purpose, wealth. Just like a rhyme. Power, purpose, wealth. Power, purpose, wealth. Power, purpose, power, purpose, wealth. And the reason we do that is because power, purpose, wealth is all interrelated with technology. Technology is this, I mean, ever changing tool. You know how every superhero has their, I don't want to say weapon. And in Hindu mythology, we call them Vimanas, right? Like they have these these animals or these tokens or these abilities that are unique to them, right? We think of Spider-Man. Spider-Man with the webs doesn't really have many weapons, but the webs are a powerful one as well as physical ability. Then we look at Batman, and Batman has an entire collection of useful gadgets. Then we look at Superman, right? Superman with his powerful strength. But take a look at some of these other heroes, right? Spider-Man was the best one there. I know Batman has a plethora of abilities, right? Resources, tools, toys. They could look at Thor, right? With the big sledgehammer. Thor. And I want you to share in the comments and our chat what other tools of the trade do these modern day superheroes have? I mean, we look at Hindu mythology, superhero god, Krishna Govinda, right, with his flute. And we have Vishnu, right? Then there's Shiva, right? Right? When we look at these god superheroes, Shiva with the trident, and as well as Durga. I mean, we look at gods all across the board. And um, I mean, we look at modern day contemporary superheroes, gods, right? Even in mythology, Poseidon, um, with the trident staff, and I mean, there's once this show, and I'll have to look this up for you later, about superheroes that would put on a ring, and then the ring would help them charge up. We have the Power Rangers, right, with their watches, and each one has their own Vamana, their own symbol, right? The dragon, the dinosaur, the saber-toothed tiger, etc. So these terms really, really matter. And when we're talking about power, purpose, wealth in that order, consider that the focus. I mentioned that the focus is spirituality, practicality, and finances. So when we think about power, think about that spiritual power, the spiritual aspect. When we talk about purpose, be practical, right? Reaching your goals. And then wealth, finances. So everyone, I know that was a lot to take in and ingest, but just ruminate on that. Let that roam around in your mind and type into the comments and chat. What do you find most beneficial from all of that? What stood out to you? Now we're gonna get into some more deep topics. So before we do that, I just want to say peace and blessings, family. Welcome back to God Tender Love and Care. Tech that builds you wealth, where we move with love, build with purpose, and grow with God. I'm God TLC of God Tender Love and Care, and today we're diving into something bigger than just tech, much more grander than technology. We're talking about the language of the future, programming. Now, I want you to write that word down. It's very important that you consider the word programming as a staple in your vernacular, the way you speak. Programming, what is programming? If any of you veterans out there have an idea, which you probably do, type it into the comments and chat. Programming, it's not just learning to code, but understanding how technology works, how you can master it, and how it ties into your power, your provision, and your purpose. So let's start at the root. What is programming? Programming is giving instructions to a computer to make it do what you want. So imagine, right? We watched the Jetsons. Remember the Jetsons? If you haven't, take a look at the show, The Jetsons. The Jetsons about the futuristic family, and even to today's standards in 2025, they are very futuristic. I mean, flying around in these hovercrafts, and I mean, we've gotten close, but we haven't gotten that close. We haven't gotten, we're not there yet. We're close, but we're not really that close, if you know what I mean. So think about these abilities. Making a robot do as you say, programming. I mean, you do it with your phone. Your phone does it. Your watch does it. You press a button, it turns on. You set your alarms. That is, in its most basic way, programming. You're telling your phone, hey, wake me up at this time. Ding, ding, ding. Programming. but it's deeper than that. Programming is a mindset. It's problem solving. It involves a lot of creativity. Programming involves communication. It's problem solving, creativity, and communication all wrapped into one. When you learn to program, you're learning to break problems down, think step by step, communicate clearly, create things out of thin air, literally from zero to one. That's divine energy. That's creation energy. So you might ask, why should I learn this? Because everything is tech now. Your phone, your car, your job, your business, your kid's education, your bank account, your groceries, all of it is run by software. If you can understand the language that runs the modern world, you're no longer just a user. You become a builder, a creator, a leader in the digital space. Tech literally is the new financial literacy. Code is the new currency. And algorithms, they run everything from your social feed to your job search. I mean, I've known about algorithms since, right, traveling as a young lad, traveling across the world with my parents. And they would ask me, hey, can you look up the tickets? And I found out this thing that happens, that the websites store your cookies, right? They store, if you've been there, how many times you've been there on their website. And I'm looking at prices. I'm like, this morning prices were a lot cheaper. Why are prices so expensive? And then I go on my buddy's computer or a public computer and I check out the same website, and the ticket prices, their airplane tickets, are cheaper than what they show up on my computer, right? Because I've never searched up the tickets on a public computer or my friend's computer. So why did that happen? Well, they jacked up the prices because they know you're interested. And that's one of the first times that I've experienced, wow, there's something here. Like, what's happening? Why is it jacking up the prices on me? Should I have just bought it the first time? Am I being punished because I did some research and I'm waiting on it and like window shopping? What's going on? And every time I go and check out tickets, should I do it on a new computer? And I start to do research, right? You start to figure out, well, there's something called an algorithm, and that's the same concept. You look up algorithms, right? You search things up on the internet, you do research, and all of a sudden it starts to pop up, right? It feels like synchronicity. The algorithm works in very, very mysterious ways. But as a programmer, you understand and take away that mist of illusion that it is covered by. And by understanding programming, you're like, well, this isn't a magic trick. I know exactly what's going on. This is happening here and that's happening, storing the cookies and has my IP information, etc. You want to learn this. You need to learn this. Tech literacy is the new financial literacy. Code is a new currency. I'm going to say that again. I mean, it's poetry. And algorithms, they run everything from your social feed to your job search. So learning programming isn't just about being a coder. It's about learning to think clearly, act precisely, and solve problems that most people run from. I mean, run from it. Hey, I'll pay you to do that. I don't want the headache, right? That's where we step in and we provide you the tools and strategies so that if you're ever approached or ever put in these positions or scenarios, that you have something in your tool belt to help you. Now, algorithms is associated with another key term, and that is abstraction. Let's talk about abstraction. Abstraction is about seeing the big picture and hiding the details. Sort of like front end and back end. Now, when you come across these terms, and we'll just general, when you come across the term front end and back end, consider that it is just what it sounds like. If you're to take a technology specialist position and you're hired as the front end or the back end developer, then you're going to have different roles that work together, such as if you're in the front end, well, you're putting everything that the consumer, the viewer sees. You're responsible for that, beautifying the website, the application, the app. If you're part of the back uh, development team, then you pretty much are anonymous. You are behind the scene. You're working in a team, but you're very, can be very independent, and you're not necessarily working on what the viewer is looking at on their phone or tablet. You're pretty much just making sure it runs smoothly. Back end development and front end development. I mean, you can do both, right? If you run your own business or your Renaissance and you're multifaceted, but those two positions vary in that way. And that's very important to understand because when you build your apps and games, you think about how to make them appealing. Now you're considering front end development. If you're just making sure and tinkering in the background, making sure it works smoothly, not necessarily what the viewer sees, a customer or the client, then you're, working in that different sphere, back end. So just something to consider, just a slight information. I know we're moving fast, but there is so much to talk about, dialogue about when it comes to algorithms and abstraction. I mean, many of you have experienced the algorithm. You go on YouTube or Snapchat or whatever social media website, TikTok and Facebook and Twitter, X, and whichever ones are out there, and you search up certain things. Well, those might start to show up on your feed as like suggestions or based on your previous searches or interests, right? Let me know in the chat. Have you had an experience with this? If so, how did you react? Did you think it was like, whoa, my computer's getting to know me? My computer knows all about me. How did this happen? Is this magic? What's going on? Are these like is there life here? How did you react? I really want to know because we all reacted very differently. And then we find out algorithms, that's how it works. So when you drive a car, you don't think about the pistons in the engine. You press the gas and it goes. And nowadays, right, you don't even have to put a key, press a button many times. That's abstraction. In tech, it helps us simplify complex systems. It lets us build faster and smarter. And that is the golden key term of this session today, everyone, here on Tech That Builds Wealth, algorithms. Define it in the comments and chat as best as you can. If for some reason it's disabled, right, you can't, email me, write it down, jot it down. And I want to hear what you think algorithms are based on everything that we've covered so far. Because when we take a deep dive in, remember, we're putting our feet in the sand, treading the water, walking in slowly and slowly, and we're walking into technology. An algorithm is just a step-by-step process for solving a problem, like a recipe, like instructions. In tech, algorithms are everywhere. Want to sort a list? You use an algorithm. Want to recommend a video? Algorithm. Want to secure your data? You guessed it, algorithm. Learning algorithms helps you and me, everyone, approach life in the same way with a strategy, not chaos. Dun dun dun. And this is going to lead to a very amazing memory that I have. One of the books that I'm reading right now, I mean, I'm reading so many books on technology, just a big collection of books in it. Over here, okay, awesome. Wow, right? And something that I came across is the influence of AI, not to delineate from algorithms, but AI is perfect. Your AI model, language model, has memory. It saves what you look up. And why is that important or why is that vital or essential? Well, because the algorithm seems to have a mind of its own. And that's very important to consider. we have to remember that algorithm comes from somewhere. Now, the term algorithm is a very, I find to be a very charming term because in Spanish, right, it sounds like algorithm, like something ritmo, like rhythm, like dun 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 dun, like you make a move, right? And it's anticipating your next move. So whenever I think of algorithm, I think of something rhythm, like dancing, like step forward, step back. You're dancing with someone, right? You anticipate your moves and their moves. Why is this important? And that expression of strategy, not chaos, because something that I recently read in one of the books, right? And let me know if you're interested. I'll delve deeper into there, post it with your name on it, and shout you out. But stated that in an office of mathematicians, accountants, right, specifically, there isn't much argument. Well, not necessarily in regards to arguing about cold hard numbers. If there's an account, the accountants, they're going to look at the facts. What was spent? Where did it come from? It's all laid there. But in the philosopher's office, there's constant, right? One man upship. How is that possible for one office, the accountant's office, to be, they can argue about other stuff, but when it comes to the numbers of facts, what they're hired to do, there's not much of an argument. Well, there's an argument here. Go check the data. Go check the numbers. Go check the reports. Go check it. Okay, solved it. Move on to the next. There aren't arguments like there is in philosophy. No, duh, right? And what AI is doing nowadays for us, right? Part philosophers, part accountants, part this, part that. What it's doing in the philosopher's office, right, is that it's creating a platform that provides peace, right? Strategy and peace, not chaos. While there was once was a lot of chaos in the philosopher's office, those philosophers that appreciate technology, AI specifically, can pretty much just say, oh, well, instead of arguing about who is right about this or that philosophy, let's just consult the AI. Let's ask the AI, and then the AI will present to you the facts. And it will do it in such a respectful way that it'll provide you, well, this line of thinking comes from this. This line of thinking comes from this. This is where it originated from. And it'll give you the outline. So the philosophers all of a sudden, instead of opinion, arguing that this isn't an opinion, this is fact, this is true, this is fact, this is true, are consulting AI, and AI is giving them just, hey, chill out, everyone. I understand your position. I understand your position. This is where this comes from. This is where this comes from. You're both not wrong, but just, two branches of the same tree, right? And it's providing structure, it's providing strategy, and the philosophers all of a sudden are, oh, okay, the AI explained your perspective to me, and we still might not be eye to eye. I could still ponder that. And the other side, the other philosopher saying, okay, well, that's where that comes from. Okay. And instead of this being this or, right? We talked about this in our one of our previous podcasts. Instead of this concept or a question of or, it becomes a question of and. Or gets replaced with and. So instead of this or that, it becomes this and that. Vanilla or chocolate? Hmm, vanilla and chocolate. Would you, and the AI is so kind, it says, would you like the vanilla and chocolate swirled? Or would you like them in different cones and hold them in two different hands, right? And that is how AI is creating cosmos, peace, and reducing chaos for the philosopher. Now that's fascinating. And that ties into how we arrived at this point of learning algorithm helps you approach life in the same way with strategy, not chaos. So I hope you are all learning a lot. Make sure you subscribe and like this. God, Tender Love and Care, tech that builds wealth. Algorithms, right, is also connected with abstraction and this aspect of technology along with wealth. Now, view wealth in the light of accessibility to resources. Software engineering and resource management is also part of the picture. Their software engineering, define that in the chat or comments. What do you think that is and how it ties into algorithms and abstraction in programming? Why learning programming build power, purpose, and wealth. Software engineering is not just writing code, but designing systems that work well, are secure, and can scale. And resource management is learning to make your programs efficient. Not just does it work, but how well does it work? Can it save time, memory, power? It's the same in life. We don't just want to survive, we want to optimize. And you all know me, I've been everywhere around the world teaching everywhere. And I mean, I can't help myself, but I often tell my students, my classes are practical. I want you to go from survival to thrive, survive to thrive. And in this presentation, I thought, well, I always say that. And I said it again. But I wanted to find a synonym that was very tech friendly. So we want to do more than just survive. We want to optimize. To find that in the chat, let me know what you think that means. Or in the comments. We want to build systems in our homes, in our money, and in our minds that are sustainable and strong. Something that is sustainable is inherently strong. It survives and it adapts. And intelligence is defined as the ability to adapt, causing a perception of strength, strong. Why is any of this important? There is real world applications to this when we consider wealth building. All these skills transfer to real world power. You want to automate tasks in your business? Programming. You want to build apps for your community? Programming. Want to get into cybersecurity, data science, or AI? It starts here. Want to freelance, contract, or start your own digital business? This is the foundation. Learning these concepts opens doors, not just jobs, but freedom. And, I don't like to get specific, but at one of my sites, I was talking amongst a big group and I asked, hey, what are your biggest complaints about said organization? And someone said, well, you know what? They give me a lot of, and it was all private. It was just one on one private, like come to me and then someone else would come to me. And so it was this type of setting. It wasn't off in public where the boss or I guess the boss, I can't say leader in this realm. We'll talk about this later, but a boss and a leader, a boss will tell you what to do. A leader actually follows with example, right? Right there, leading. But someone had said that, well, I don't like when they give me busy work. I feel that, I do my tasks and then I want to perfect it. And then all of a sudden I get more work and it seems like busy work, busy work. Keep them busy, busy work. And why is this important for this conversation now? Because it's not just about jobs. It's not just about giving people busy work, but freedom, remote work, passive income, ownership, equity, wealth. So, family, everyone here on God, Tender, Love, and Care, if you're joining Tech That Builds Wealth, this isn't just about code. I mean, you've been a part of this. We've been going back and forth. It's about clarity, about power, about being a creator in a system that trains us to consume. And why do I say that? Well, because all the latest technologies in the world want you to fork over your money, right? And instead of teaching you about, hey, you've had that same phone, iPhone, Android, something else, Nokia, flip up phone, you've had that phone for a long time. And they tell you, now it's time to upgrade. That's not the message I'm sharing. The message I'm saying is, hey, if you even if you're rocking a Nokia phone, open that one up. Figure out all the accessibility settings. Check out every single feature that that phone has. I mean, even here with my devices, I'm constantly exploring, whoa, and coming up with, I didn't know that this did that. Wow, what a game changer. Using what you already have to leverage your wealth. And that is how you invest in yourself. It isn't just about consumerism, about spend, spend, spend. Oh, look at that. You just bought a phone and there was a recent development a month later. So your phone is outdated. Your phone is useless. You can't use it anymore. You need to fork over more money, get rid of that phone, recycle it, or give it to us for free, and buy the new phone. Spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars. No, no, no. Not about that. It's about using your current technology to build your wealth in whichever system you're using. And as you all know me, I teach a bunch of different classes: technology, multimedia technology, ed tech technology, information technology, cybersecurity, business, entrepreneurship, all over the world. And when people come to me and say, hey, I know you gave this project, you gave this assignment, I don't know if I can do it because I don't have the technology for it. I mean, you want us to go off and record some time lapse, and all I have is this flip up phone or this little camcorder with uses these AA, AAA batteries. I'm like, perfect. I want you to use that, and I want you to master it. Now, when it comes to technology, and we're exploring programming and code, well, what can you use? I mean, when I dabbled in music, right? You all are on the channel. I didn't start off with the elaborate production systems. No, I started off with a microphone that I built myself, that I soldered myself. I had some headphones, took them apart. Huh. Oh, wow, the microphone is on here. Started off with Audacity, a completely free program, and I was like, well, it doesn't necessarily sound like radio quality. But if I record in this room and maybe I pad that wall, and maybe if I close this door and, I hold an umbrella, put the umbrella right over there and record, wow, I'm getting a different sound quality. I'm going to record like this, tape that up there, right? So you work with what you have and you leverage your experience. You have no experience in technology. You want to build wealth? Well, start off free. Start off building those blogs, those websites, your YouTube page. Vimeo even gives you a free option. Use your resources. And the key term here is leverage what you have to build you wealth. It should not cost you anything to make money. It's kind of like, I mean, I've seen these job websites where they're like, hey, you pay us this amount of money and we'll let you use our website to apply for jobs. So you're spending money to apply for jobs that you might not even get. Doesn't make sense, right? Use your free resources. You're applying to jobs, go on Indeed, go on LinkedIn, go on Glassdoor, go on Handshake. And if any of those ever start to charge you, okay, then we're going to move on to the free resources because I'm not saying don't ever pay for those, but you're gonna pay for something that you're not really in a position to pay for. You pay for it once you get the job, right? If you really love their software, but you shouldn't have to pay when you don't have. And that's why I'm saying leverage all of your free resources. I'm all about accessibility here, everyone. And that's why you should subscribe and like this channel because this is true, real, practical information. I want to help you get wealthy. You're part of my community. You're in God tender loving care. And you're like, well, there must be a catch. No, There's no catch. What there is care. That's why we call ourselves Got Tender Love and Care, everyone, because there's no catch unless we're playing baseball or, and I guess we can throw the pigskin around, or maybe if we're training some martial art, parry some punches, we can catch those. But Got Tender Love and Care. So, I mean, if you start to create from what you already have, you will have success. You'll get better and better and better. You keep evolving. I promise. Learning programming is like learning to fish in the digital economy. You stop waiting on the world to feed you and you start creating your own plate. You know, my dad, my father taught me this. We'd go to the park, go fishing. There wasn't much to fish in our neighborhood. We didn't have a car. We would walk to the park for our fishing pose. And most of the time, we would catch catfish. And this isn't catfish, this is real. I've been there. You know, if you're there, I want to help you level up. And if you feel called to learn, now is the time. There are free resources everywhere. You just need time, patience, and intention. Stay prayed up, everyone. Stay curious. Stay building. This is God Tender Loving Care. Our podcast is Tech That Builds Wealth. Like, comment, and share this stream if you felt it. And remember, God didn't make you average, so don't live like you are. You are here to create. If you enjoyed our session today, I want to hear what you learned. What stood out to you the most? Did you take any notes? Did you jot down any awesome new ideas? Well, everyone, this is God TLC signing out. On to the next one. Ciao. Nos vemos. Alante. Peace.